Nearly half of the weight loss on these extreme diets comes from muscle and bone.
The more you restrict the food that you're eating, the faster this muscle loss is going to be. It's going to suppress your immune function. You can end up with a slower metabolism.
Your body doesn't naturally maintain everything like it used to. Hello, and welcome to the Trinity Fit Over 40 podcast with me, Rob Burkhead.
And me, Ben Hughes. We are the co-founders of Trinity Transformation and creators of the Fit Over 40 method. And together with our world-class coaching team, we've helped more than 7,000 women over 40 to reclaim their confidence, feel strong, youthful, and amazing in their clothes over the past decade. For more information about what we do, go to www.fit40info.com. Something we're seeing more and more is women in their 40s, 50s, and 60s doing everything they can to lose weight, cutting calories, skipping meals, even turning to weight loss jabs, only to end up feeling older, weaker, and more drained than ever before. In today's episode, we are breaking down how extreme dieting can actually speed up the aging process, what it does to your muscle, your bones, your energy, your brain, and what to do instead if you want to look and feel younger, stronger, and more confident in your 40s, 50s, and 60s.
So generally dieting is based around fairly severe calorie restriction. That's what most traditional diets are based around, whether it's keto, low carb, you're cutting out a huge part of your diet, about 50%, whether it's weight loss injections, the weight loss comes from eating a hell of a lot less than normal, whether it's some sort of fad diet like the cabbage soup diet or Slimming World Weight Watchers, all of those kind of diets are based around the same thing, which is just eating a lot less. And that is okay in your 20s. It's a blunt instrument. It's kind of like saying, I want to remodel my house and I'm just going to use a hammer and smash it to pieces. Like in your 20s, your body can get away with a lot. You can just punish it into losing weight and getting in shape. And it naturally maintains muscle. It naturally maintains bone. It naturally maintains strength. It naturally maintains its metabolism. And even if you lose a little bit, it rebuilds it pretty quickly. So in your 20s, you can get away with it, maybe in your early 30s as well. Over 40, though, for women over 40 specifically, because estrogen and progesterone are starting to decline from your late 30s and into your early 40s and through menopause, your body doesn't naturally maintain everything like it used to. And if you don't get the external factors right, so this is your nutrition, the things you do with your body, so your exercise, if you don't get that right, it will actually potentially age faster than is normal and than will naturally happen. And you will end up, like you said, Ben, feeling way older than you should. And there's a number of reasons why. So today we're going to go into each one of those reasons one by one. So the first one I want to talk about, one of my kind of favorite topics is muscle, because I think for years, women were not taught about muscle. It was kind of just thought you want to be skinny. And what they weren't then taught is all the downsides of losing muscle, which again won't really happen in your 20s because your body naturally retains it so well. But from your 30s onwards, you start to lose about 1% of your muscle mass per year. And this can accelerate a lot with severe calorie restriction, with extreme dieting. And this will lead you to feel less firm and less toned. So everything will start to sort of blend into each other. This is something a lot of clients tell us before we start working together. My bum is now blending into the back of my thighs. My arms are wobbly. I've got bingo wings or bat wings. My thighs are wobbly. I've even maybe got back rolls under where my bra straps are. All of that kind of lack of tone comes from muscle loss. And what can actually happen is sometimes your weight might even be similar to what it used to be, but your body shape is totally different. So you're more of a blobby shape. It's less firm. It's less toned. And a good description for this is kind of like a balloon a few days after a child's party, where it's kind of shrunk down. It's not firm anymore. It's squidgy and wrinkly and wobbly. And ultimately what this leads to, just in terms of visual changes, there's obviously other changes in terms of physiological changes that we're going to get into, but in terms of just visually, you're going to look and feel less youthful. And it can even lead to your clothes not fitting, even though you're the same weight or similar weight to what you used to be. You're going to have to rely more on sucking clothes, sucking pants, shapewear, all of these things. And it can even lead to fairly significant issues in day-to-day function if you really, really go to the extreme. So I know, Ben, you're going to get into strength loss next, which is as a side effect of losing this muscle. But I heard a story recently from a client who saw a grandmother who they knew who was taking one of these weight loss jabs, which then meant they were really eating a lot less. They'd lost a lot of weight, but they were looking kind of gaunt. And worst of all, it wasn't about just the looks. They were trying to play with their grandchild, but they couldn't pick up their grandchild safely. They were staggering around and they couldn't there to put them back down and actually stop playing with their grandchild because they didn't have the strength to do so. So it's not just a visual thing. It's also a strength and function thing, right, Ben?
Yeah. And as you lose that muscle mass, there's kind of a couple of knock-on effects that can come as a result of that. So the first one is you can end up with a slower metabolism. So metabolism is very closely linked to the amount of lean mass that you have, i.e. the amount of muscle that you have. Almost all metabolism loss with age is basically correlated to a loss of lean mass. So as that muscle comes down, your metabolism also slows down. What that means is your body is not going to be burning as many calories as you go about your day-to-day, as you just kind of go through everyday life. Meaning, if you keep eating the same amount of food, but your metabolism has slowed down, your weight will tend to increase. You will just be gaining weight. It'll be very easy to gain weight. It'll be very difficult to lose that weight again. And you'll find that your muscle mass comes down, you get weaker, you get heavier, and your body fat just starts to spiral up and up and up. And as people age, so as everybody ages, naturally your body starts to lose lean mass, lose that muscle anyway. So this will happen to everyone as you get older. There's a few things you can do to kind of combat that. But essentially your muscle mass is already, you're already at risk of losing that as you get older. If you then combine that with dieting, so any type of caloric restriction, the more you restrict the food that you're eating, the faster this muscle loss is going to be. So things like, for example, weight loss jabs, which are going to make you lose your appetite essentially, and you're going to eat very little. Or if you go on like a 1,200 calorie a day diet or a 1,000 calorie a day diet, any of these sort of extreme approaches where you're really just not fueling your body with what it needs, your body basically, it will get rid of your own muscle to provide you with fuel, essentially. So you'll break down muscle mass more quickly to provide your body with fuel. So you will accelerate this muscle loss the more that you diet. And so even if you are dieting, your metabolism will get slower and slower and slower. This is one of the reasons why people follow these dieting approaches. And actually their progress often just comes to a complete halt because their metabolism has slowed so much that their body is now just surviving on a very, very low calorie intake. It's not burning many calories anymore, which means you can be very, very stuck. You can be stuck with a slow metabolism. The weight can then pile on really, really quick, and then you can be overweight, but also left with a very slow metabolism as well. And that's a very, very difficult position to be in. So yeah, this sustained caloric restriction, muscle loss can then lead to a slower metabolism. And the other thing it can lead to is a loss of strength, as you already mentioned, Rob. And basically, as your muscle mass decreases, you will get weaker because muscle is what provides you with strength. A lot of people find that if they lose too much strength, they'll struggle with things like climbing stairs. They'll struggle with going up hills without getting out of breath. They will be less stable. They will be unable to kind of carry out normal things, whether that's, for example, just lifting something heavy in the garden, lifting your grandkids up, as you said, Rob. And you can also be at an increased risk of injury as well. So every single one of your joints is basically supported by the muscle you have around that joint. So if you lose the muscle that's supporting those joints, your joint is at much more risk of injury. So you'll see people who they start getting sore knees, sore back, sore hips, and they'll find that a minor slip or a minor fall or something like that can result in them having an injury and, damaging themselves and being completely unable to do what they want to do. And I think it's really important as well to maintain kind of the strength and the physical ability that you have now, because if you think about where you are now in terms of what you can do, so if you're struggling to climb the stairs now in your maybe 40s, 50s, or if you're struggling to walk up a hill without getting out of breath now, if you fast forward that into your 60s, 70s, 80s, you're not going to kind of maintain the level of strength and fitness you have now. That is going to decrease. So if you still want to be able and be physically active and independent into older age, be able to climb stairs, do all those normal things, then right now you need to be able to do a lot more than you want to do as you get older. So yeah, muscle loss overall is a big problem. It will essentially, when we think of being old, so an old people, usually we think of them being slower, being weaker, less physically able, needing more help from other people. And a lot of that is just related to losing that muscle mass and losing that strength. I've seen numerous things. I actually saw a video today on it was on one of our social media feeds. I just saw a video pop up, which actually showed a couple who were in their 80s, who were starting to kind of worry about losing their independence. Then they started doing strength training to kind of rebuild muscle and strength. And they dramatically were able to improve what they were able to do and get back to just living normal life like they wanted to. So yeah, muscle mass is a massive deal.
Another thing that's a big deal as well is bone density loss. And I think we're hearing more about it now, which is great. And it's a particular problem around menopause. But studies have basically shown that caloric restriction, and generally it's more extreme calorie restriction, like you talked about, Ben, whether it's 1,200 calories a day, whether it's some extreme diet or jabs, it leads to an increase of bone reabsorption. So your body is constantly building and breaking things down, whether it's muscle, whether it's bone. What you want is more of the building activity and less of the breaking it down. What happens with caloric restriction is the opposite. You end up absorbing more of your bone because, again, like you said, Ben, you need it for energy. So your body has to get that energy from somewhere. And if it's an extreme diet, your body then goes, well, I need to get it from all sources. I can't just take it from body fat. I'm going to take it from the muscle. I'm going to take it from the bone. And about nearly half of the weight loss on these extreme diets comes from muscle and bone, lean mass. And the result of this is you get a decrease in bone mineral density. And this is particularly pronounced in women around menopause who are already at increased risk for osteoporosis because estrogen is protective of your bone density and progesterone slows down that bone reabsorption. So you lose estrogen and progesterone through menopause. And as with muscle, HRT, even if you're taking HRT in the UK, it's often posed as this thing that solves absolutely every problem with menopause. And it can really help with certain things like vasomotor symptoms, hot flushes, night sweats. Loads of our clients take HRT and we do think it's a good idea for them. It doesn't stop this. It might slow down these processes, but it doesn't stop you losing bone density. It doesn't stop you losing muscle. You have to do other things. And just to give you a couple of stats around this, you lose about 4.4% on average of your bone density between 50 and 54 as a woman due to menopausal changes. Now, that is an average. It might happen earlier or later if you have an earlier or later menopause. But the point is you might lose 25%, a quarter of your bone mineral density in 5 years. And that's an average. So that doesn't factor in people who are doing more extreme diets. So if you do a more extreme diet, you're going to lose more than that because your bone doesn't have the nutrients to rebuild and remodel themselves. And a 2019 study found that low-calorie diets basically don't have the essential nutrients vital for bone health. So they don't have enough calcium, they don't have enough vitamin D, they don't have enough protein. Protein is really, really important for remodeling bone and muscle. And deficiencies then mean you lose bone strength, you have an increased risk of fractures, and there's a huge mortality risk on the other side of those fractures as well. So it's really, really quite dangerous, which is why we're really stressing this point and trying to get this message out here that these extreme approaches are actually pretty dangerous as you get older. But the good news, like you were saying, Ben, is you can actually reverse this around menopause. But first things first is you need to eat enough. If you're not eating enough, you're not going to have those vitamins and minerals. Your body can't make bone out of nothing. It can't just magically keep your bone. It has to lose it if you're not putting the right ingredients in. It's a bit like trying to remodel your house. I know Ben's just moved house. He wants to change some of the house. You can't, do an extension if there's no bricks or no building materials. You can't just come up with an extension in your head. If the builders have nothing to work with, they can't rebuild it. And it's exactly the same in your body. Your body can't rebuild itself. But a study in 2017 found that 6 weeks of strength training combined with, a good diet, improved pelvis, bone mineral density, and knee extensor strength, which basically means muscle, in postmenopausal women with sarcopenia. So age-related muscle loss and bone mineral density loss as well was seen in this group. So really it shows that you can reverse all of this. So we're not trying to just be negative with this topic today. We're showing you can reverse it. You just not got to step away from the extreme diets. And this is not like all of the reasons. There's so many more reasons why they will accelerate aging. So we've talked about bone, we've talked about muscle. Another one, Ben, I want to talk about is low energy levels, because I think I was telling you this recently. I heard from a ambulance first responder that I know from a gym I used to be a member of. He was messaging me saying, I don't know if you've heard about this, because he knows the type of clients I work with. He was trying to get his mum to join our program. I can't remember if she did or not, but he was saying he keeps getting call outs now to women in their middle age who are collapsing all over our local area, who are taking these weight loss jabs. So they're not getting enough energy in to literally go about day-to-day activities, going to the shops, things like that. You can't function without enough fuel. And it's quite a sad situation for these people to be in. You know, they're paying all this money for these jabs, and then they're collapsing, they're falling over, they're unable to function day to day now. And these are women in their 40s and 50s. They're not women who are like 80 that you'd expect to be collapsing. So again, one more reason is it's going to really affect your energy. If you want to have good energy, actually, it's about putting the right food in. If you eat the wrong food, you will have poor energy. But the right food in the right quantities for you. And we have clients all the time within the first few weeks report they have more energy than they have done in years. So that's the last thing I want to say on energy. What other things, Ben, do you see kind of exacerbated by these really low-calorie dieting approaches?
Imagine living in a home that you've cherished for years.
You've done your best to keep it in good condition,
But no matter how much you clean, paint, or repair,
the problems keep piling up.
the cracks are showing, the roof is leaking, and it feels like everything is getting worse despite your best efforts.
For many women, losing weight around menopause feels just like that,
You've tried diets, workouts, and advice,
where the results don't come and the frustration keeps growing.
That's where our Fit Over 40 private coaching program comes in.
Think of us as your expert renovation team.
We know exactly how to fix the root issues, rebuild your confidence, and create lasting results, just like restoring a home to its best condition.
If you're ready to finally see results that last, click the link in the description below now. Let us help you restore the body and the life you deserve.
So I've already talked about kind of that reduction in strength that can also lead to joint aches and pains and joint issues and injuries, being more easily injured. But another thing that can also contribute to that is around menopause, inflammation is increased, basically due to reduced estrogen levels. So as estrogen levels come down for women, they end up with more inflammation. If you're also making poor food choices alongside that, that will exacerbate this. And essentially, if you've got inflammation and that inflammation is affecting your joints, you're going to be more likely to have aches and pains. So if you've got inflamed joints, you also got your body's not getting all of the vitamins and minerals and nutrients that it needs. At the same time, you're losing strength. Your injury risk and your risk of just having to deal with pain and problems on a day-to-day basis just goes up and up and up. So yeah, that's another issue. And it's essentially, again, coming down to a similar thing of if you're not giving your body what it needs to function, it's not going to be able to function as it should.
And another thing I see a lot is, or we see the flip side, is clients reporting how much their hair, their nails, their skin has improved. We actually have a case study at the end where they were talking about how their skin is now, their husband said their skin is glowing. Everything's lifted. They look younger. Their hair's more shiny. You can't get those things if you starve the body. So lack of quality nutrition, lack of those vitamins, those minerals we talked about, lack of protein means your body cannot thrive. Your body is kind of like, it's like trying to go on a great holiday, but you've only got £5 a day budget. Unfortunately, you're probably going to struggle to have a great time because you can't afford to eat out. You can't afford to do any activities. Your body can't have a great time. It can't thrive if you are only giving it a few hundred calories a day and you're not giving it any protein and you're giving it barely any vitamins, barely any minerals. So what this leads to is everything kind of dulling down. You get saggier skin, your nails start snapping, your hair starts to thin, might even start to fall out, which can sometimes happen as a side effect of menopause anyway, although a good diet tends to reverse a lot of that. But we've heard of loads of people, I've heard through lots of different contacts, people's hair falling out on these weight loss jabs. And a big part of that, I believe, and it looks like the data is pointing at, is just this severe restriction. Again, the body can't regenerate and keep your hair, so you start to lose that as well as muscle, as well as bone. And it's, again, I think it's a year where people are trying these things because it's new, but I think a lot of people are going to realize they aged 5-10 years in maybe 20 years if they lost all the muscle and bone density in literally 6 months. And it's a really horrible place to be. There's probably a couple more things as well, right, Ben, that are beyond all of these kind of visual things that are also quite serious as a result of these extreme diets.
Yeah, and as you kind of alluded to there, age, I think one of the key things is that age isn't just a number. So we think a lot of the time as age of being, I'm 34 years old, that's basically how long I've been alive, essentially. But I have a fitness tracking watch I'm quite into, which gives me like a, what does it call it? I think it calls it your fitness age. So it gives me like a fitness age. My fitness age, according to this, is like 26 or something. And the fitness age is based on things like, your resting heart rate, your heart health, your body weight, body mass index, cardio fitness. It's got a few different things, but I think if it also had, the one thing it doesn't have is strength level. And I think strength level and how much muscle mass you've got is also a really good predictor of age. But essentially, there are all these factors, like biological, physical factors, which all add up to kind of the sort of not only the age you are, which is a number, but the age that your body is in terms of kind of the state of your body. So all of these changes that we're talking about and all these things that can make you basically feel older, you can also take it all in the opposite direction. So you could be, 50, you could be 60. We've got plenty of clients who are, they're in their 50s, they're in their 60s, and they're feeling amazing. They're really strong. We've done events with them where they've been at the gym lifting like big weights. They feel better than ever. Their joints are better. They've got more energy. They're looking better than ever. So yeah, it's really age doesn't just have to be a number. It's more kind of defining it by how you feel, what you're able to do on a day-to-day basis. But yeah, there's a couple of final things that I want to cover. Things which can happen if you don't really look after your body and if you follow these extreme nutrition approaches. So one of them is it can lead to a weakened immune system as well. So if you're not giving your body what it needs, a lot of this is coming down to, again, not giving your body what it needs nutritionally. If you have a poor nutrient intake, meaning you're not getting the right range of kind of vitamins and minerals in your body, it's going to suppress your immune function. So your immune system needs just like your muscles need protein to function, your immune system needs the right vitamins and minerals to be able to function correctly. If your immune system is not functioning correctly, things like cold, infections, inflammation are going to be more likely. And if you're constantly ill, again, that's another thing we associate with people. People, when they get old, they tend to end up having to take more medications and having more kind of chronic diseases, but that will all settle in earlier if you're not giving your body what it needs. And the final impact that can affect people is a loss of libido. So if you're dealing with hormonal disruption, we've also talked about that low energy level as well. If you've constantly got really, really low energy levels, that will naturally lead to a reduced interest in intimacy and in your relationships. And obviously, that's not necessarily going to be the best thing for your relationship. It's going to lead to negative outcomes. It's probably going to kind of push a little bit of a wedge between yourself and your partner. And also, then it's kind of a downward spiral, because then that can start affecting your confidence. You can start, your relationship's not going so well. You start worrying about your relationship. That then gets your mood down. Maybe that then leads to other things like making poor food choices or feeling even worse on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, there can also be a loss of libido just as a result of kind of not fueling your body with what it needs.
And one of the highest divorce rate is for people around menopause. And I'm not saying it's going to necessarily lead to that, but we do see it with quite a lot of clients that they've got divorced around menopause because it's tough. But they kind of realized that a significant part of why they felt so awful through it was actually controllable through their nutrition, through their exercise, maybe with a bit of support with their HRT, which we have a specialist that helps them with as well. So we have loads of clients who come up the other side saying their relationship's better than ever. their intimacies back on the cards because they feel more confident on themselves, but also they have the energy and their libido is back. And it's, not everyone's that concerned with that, but it definitely is another thing we see more than I would have expected before we got into this. So just to conclude then, what works much better if you want to kind of counteract aging? If you want to, like you were saying, Ben, if you want your biological age to be 10, 20, 30 years younger, and we have clients back in their wedding dress from their 20s, in their 50s, and it actually fits better than it did then because they're more toned. We have clients with their biological age of 38 when they're 57, or, and then their 60s there. I was reading another case study from Sally Osborne this week saying she's as fit and flexible as she was in her mid-20s at 66. All of this is actually possible. And that's why we make this podcast. That's why we do all of this, because we want people to realize it's not just all part of getting older. And unfortunately, extreme approaches will actually make you feel older still. So what you need to do instead is to ensure, first of all, you're getting enough of the key nutrients. We call these the key three. So calories, protein, and fiber. And for all of these, there's a sweet spot. There's an amount that's going to be right for you, and it's going to be unique to you, your body weight, your height, your age, your hormonal situation. We take into account all of that when working with clients, and we fine tune it until it's right. And then that will then mean you age well, but you also reach a healthy weight as easily as possible without feeling restricted, without being starving, and without losing bone density, without losing muscle. You'll actually gain muscle and bone. So usually it's more than people think, but it's less than they were probably eating if they weren't losing weight already. But it doesn't feel hard because they're eating better quality food. So that's the first thing, get the right amount of the key three. Second thing, you want to make sure you're avoiding extreme approaches, because extreme approaches, whether it's dieting or exercise, tend to backfire around menopause. So things like HIIT, things like gym classes, things like long distance running. Generally, you want to minimize that. You might be able to reintroduce it once you've kind of solved all the things we talked about today. So we have lots of clients who can kind of go back to it then. But until everything's in a good place, weight-wise, fitness-wise, health-wise, you want to reduce all those extreme things, and you definitely want to avoid extreme dieting at all costs. And then you want to replace those extreme things when it comes to exercise with strength training, because that will reverse bone mineral density loss and strength loss. And some of the studies I quoted today showed that even in people in their 50s and 60s are improving all of those things. And we're seeing that all the time with clients. And then a low stress additional form of exercise, if you do it, is something like steps. It could be swimming, but something gentle. And most importantly, really, is to ensure this is overseen by someone who's an expert in helping women over 40. Because if you get it wrong, you're going to age, as we said, 5-10 years in. You could literally age 5 or 10 years in 6 months through doing extreme approaches, which a lot of trainers, unfortunately, are still doing. These weight loss injections are definitely doing. So if you don't want that, then make sure it is overseen by an expert who can make sure you're getting everything right for you, because it's about the details and about the specifics that's kind of key to avoid accelerated aging and actually to counteract aging and look and feel your best around menopause. And we've got a great example. Ben, do you want to share what happened to Nanette, who kind of did all of this and is one of our great clients who's been a real success story?
So Nanette, who is a head teacher and is age 52, she told us, she said, since starting Trinity, I'm a dress size down. My husband says I look younger, glowing skin, and my upper half is lifted. Doesn't want me to pay for a boob job, lol. And I have less middle-age spread. I feel stronger when walking, especially hill walking. I notice my stomach is becoming flatter and I have more toned thighs. I like it. I want to wear less baggy clothes and I'm checking out clothes I don't like. I feel I deserve better and I'm less intent on saving everyone else. I'm calmer, more grateful, and I have a much better relationship with my children. I know my worth at work. I want to be at home, not work to the point of exhaustion, and I'm considering an activity holiday.
So the phenomenal transformation there from Nanette. And I know I worked with Nanette for a long time. She's now with our head of client success, Dave. She has transformed so much more. So she's maintained these results now for a long time. But as you can hear here, it's not just about counteracting aging. She made the joke about she was going to get a boob job, which doesn't need to now because everything's lifted. But also she is now valuing herself more. She has more self-worth, more confidence at work. She's made some really significant changes where her whole life kind of revolved around work at the expense of family life and children. She actually manages a really difficult school in Birmingham, a whole academy trust, I think it's called. And she's put boundaries in place. She's delegated better. We worked with her on so many more things than just fitness. So it's transformed all areas of her life. So it's a really rewarding one. And of course, she's a dress size down and looks younger, glowing skin, all the other good stuff. So Ben, where can people go if they want to find out more about the program that Nanette and thousands of other women have followed?
So to find out more about the program, head over to www.fit40info.com. There you'll get all the details of Fit Over 40, and hopefully, we can work with you. We can help you achieve your goals, feel younger, stronger, and better.
Amazing. So thank you so much for joining us for today's podcast. That just about wraps it up for this week. We'll catch you next week for another episode. We will see you then. If you're fed up with trying everything and seeing no results,
watching your weight creeping up and struggling to fit into your clothes,
and you're looking for the fastest and easiest way to get your ideal weight
and never have to worry about your weight or health again,
you can save yourself years of trial and error by letting us take care of the hard work for you in our Fit Over 40 private coaching program.
Over the past decade, our world-class team have personally guided more than 7,000 women to take back control of their health and confidence, and more importantly, maintain those results for life.
If you're ready to finally get results at last and find out how we can help you do that too, click the link in the description below to get the full details now.